Fritz eventually noticed me slowing down and told me just to stay up top and empty the bucket for a while. He would do the work of filling it and climbing the ladder. His buckets were more full than mine had been, so after only a few trips, he doubled the size of our dirt pile in the room. After an hour of this, he handed me another bucket and said, "Most of the dirt that I dug out is empty. Do you think that we should quit for the night?" Yes. If we were going to get to the end, if he was going to end his sentence any other way, I wasn't interested. "Come back down into the shelter, Gerda. You need to see how far we've gotten." I hope the helpful tone of his voice gave new strength to my legs, and I hurried down the ladder. As tired as I was, I still thought it was the most fabulous thing I'd ever seen. We were probably at least as far as the exterior wall of the Welcome Building, which meant if we were up on the surface, we would be openly standing inside the death strip, somewhere between those two impassable walls of East Berlin's borders. We still had a long way to go. I wasn't kidding myself about that, but if the rest of our digging went as well as today had gone, we would be to the other side in no time, maybe even further. "Why bother stop when we're in West Berlin?" I said, laughing. "We could keep tunneling until we reached France." "Absolutely," he said with a grin. "I'll make the tunnel come up right beneath the Eiffel Tower, and we'll have the most original view of it anyone has ever seen." We laughed as we stripped off the overalls and hung them on the bench on the other end of the shelter. We set the bucket and shovel beside them, then climbed the ladder and replaced the heavy door over it. "There's no point in covering this door with dirt," I said. I had done it in the past visits to hide the door in case someone had happened to come look in here. But now if someone looked in, they were bound to see the piles of fresh dirt in the corner. They know right away something was up. We wouldn't be able to hide the evidence of our tunnel. All we could hope was that nobody would look. Fritz agreed with me and then said it was extra important that we replace the boards over the windows so they looked undisturbed. "Maybe I'll even enforce them with new boards," he said. "I'll make it impossible for someone to peek inside." After we got into the evening light, we realized the overalls might have protected our clothes, but our faces and hands were both smeared with dirt. "This won't do," Fritz said. "We look like we've been tunneling. Nothing else could explain our appearance." I pointed to the pond at the far end of the dirt patch and the irrigation river running through it. The problem was that to get there, we'd have to leave the shadow of the wall. Fritz looked around us. "They'll see our footprints here. Better they see them all over like a gardener's would be, instead of only near the building. We have to take the risk at some point. If they come, then we'll show them where we want to put the garden." I straightened up beside him and through my legs felt numb. We casually walked toward the pond. Once there, we laid on our stomach and washed our hands and arms and faces. So far, nobody had come. Maybe this was okay with the guards. Maybe. We would have washed more, but the dark was coming fast, and we knew the guards in the watchtower would have spotted us by now. They didn't seem to mind that we were standing on this land, but their feelings would change after curfew, which was strictly enforced. It was time to go. "Tomorrow we must bring water to drink," I told him as we hurried home. "Yes, that and some food." A smile started in the center of my heart and warmed every inch of me. No matter how hard today had been, how hungry, tired, and thirsty we both were, Fritz planned to tunnel again tomorrow, too. Chapter 21. Our progress over the next few days was dreadfully slow. The large clumps of dirt turned into even larger rocks that seemed as impassable as the Berlin Wall itself. Fritz and I spent hours chipping at the edges to pull the rocks out, but too often that just led to finding other rocks in our way. Fritz stood back and examined the dirt wall. If this was how the rest of the tunneling would be, we might as well give up. "Let's turn sideways and go around it." I brushed my sweaty hair out of my face. It can't all be rock under here. What if it is? It could take months." "Then let it take months," I said. "At least we're still moving forward." "I don't have months," Fritz said. "It's just weeks until they'll expect me for military duty. I was ready to keep arguing, but he only picked up the shovel again. So there's no really time to complain about it, eh? He was the one who had complained, not me, and besides, I was still feeling the surge of energy from our brief argument. I used it to pry my fingers into the dirt and yank out one of the larger rocks. Dirt tumbled over my shoulders when it fell, but I only smiled. I felt better now. I should make you angry more often, he teased. Help me carry this rock up. Then I've got some work to do above. Earlier that morning, Fritz had removed the hinges from the closet door in our apartment. While I screwed these on the wood boards over the windows, maybe you can use the rocks to build us a stairway, he said. That way, it's not such a climb for you to get out. I did as he suggested, but most of the time thinking about how lucky I was to have Fritz here. He was resourceful and good with his hands. So good, in fact, that I sometimes felt like a useless child getting in his way. Sure, I helped him dig and carry buckets of dirt into the basement, and every night I was just as tired as he was when we stumbled back into the apartment. But I had also begun to appreciate how hard this tunnel project was, how much bigger than what I had first imagined. On one of those walks home, we were stopped on the street by Frau Eberhardt, who paroled the front of our apartment building better than most of the guards in the watchtowers. She saw the dirt on our hands and faces and waddled over to us. I looked up at Fritz. Remember, Frau Eberhardt thinks we're gardening. Gardening what? He asked. I didn't answer because Frau Eberhardt was upon us then, and he could only smile politely at her. What a pleasure to see you two low children. If she felt any pleasure, it was watching us squirm. I can tell you've been busy today. Her eyes flicked from me up to Fritz. I wasn't sure of us. I wasn't sure which one of us was dirtier. We hadn't taken time to wash in the pond before leaving tonight. Fritz worried if we did that too often, it would stand out to the guards. Maybe that was a mistake, though, because sure as anything, we stood out now. We might as well pasted signs on our chest announcing our plan. We have been busy, I said, a bit too defensively, and we're late for supper, so you'll excuse us. Late for whose supper? Frau Eberhardt asked. Your mother isn't there to prepare it. Where has she been? I miss visiting her. She didn't miss visiting with Mama because my mother avoided her like she dodged a black cat sitting on a crack in the sidewalk, and this woman was far unluckier than any old wives' tale. Our mother is helping our grandmother recover from a surgery, Fritz said. We expect her back very soon. Maybe tonight, I offered, which is why it wouldn't be rude to be why it would be rude to be late. Even as the words fell out of my mouth, I could have kicked myself for saying them. Why use such a stupid lie to remind her that I had already tried to lie before? Fritz covered for me. Gerda means that we are hungry and we need to get some supper. We wish our mother was home to share it with us, but if she isn't, we expect her soon. Let's hope, Frau Eberhardt uh, pressed her lips together and began examining us. It's not wise to allow young people too much time on their own. Children will get into trouble. I'm not a child anymore, Fritz said. By the end of this month, I'll be joining the military. And how will you fill your time until then? I heard you're not working as a bricklayer anymore. Gardening, I said. That garden I told you about, we've been working on it. Where is it? I used to love to garden. I would love to come by and give you some advice. We'll take you there sometime. I took Fritz's arm and started walking. Thanks for your help. We better go. Once we were inside, Fritz stared down at me and shook his head. Even before he spoke, I understood his concerns. Frau Eberhardt would not go away, and she would expect evidence of a garden. We haven't pulled a single weed, Fritz said, nor do we have permission to garden there, or any tools or seeds to get started. This is a big problem, Gerda. I agreed completely, but after a long day of digging and pulling out rocks, my brain felt as rubbery as my arms and legs. We were running out of food in the apartment, but that was okay too. As tired as I was, I didn't feel all that hungry anyway. I barely took enough time to wash off before I fell on my bed, already asleep as my head hit the pillow.